Brilliant. Seems like it's brilliant.
Hi, let's introduce ourselves. Hi, I'm John Cronin. I'm the Reform UK. I ran for Reform UK in the London Assembly elections for Lambeth and Southwark. And
So I'm Matt Stevens. I've been campaigning with Reform UK throughout the London Assembly elections. I got round to most of the candidates. I'm 17, and the issues that have been raised over the past year through lockdown and things like that, it was just too bad to just sit and watch. So I thought I had to get involved in campaign as much as I could, and that's what I've been doing over the past few months.
Okay, I know that you've been out campaigning with Alex Wilson lately. He's running for the Cheshire and Amersham.
He absolutely is, yeah.
So what's the reaction been like from the public?
So it's been a brilliant area. Obviously, I've been out campaigning them a few times this week. So the key message there is we're very anti-HS2. We're calling the by-election a referendum on HS2. And actually, the area has been so impacted by HS2. I mean, we were in an area the other day, a forest, and that's going to be completely destroyed by HS2. And we were speaking to people near there, and they're just all so furious with it. I mean, it's cost over £7 billion. I mean, people are just so willing to engage with us and talk to us because they're so furious about HS2. I mean, it's been absolutely devastating for them. There's clear frustration there. And it's just about telling people we are the clear option against HS2. And, people are furious. The reception's been brilliant. People are willing to listen and learn about us. Obviously, we're quite a new party. So it's about getting the message across, and people are very willing to listen and give us a chance.
I've looked at the history of the seat, and it seems to be quite a stronghold of Conservative.
Absolutely,
I think it was replaced. I think the candidate that was in there, she unfortunately died. And
she unfortunately passed away recently.
Yeah, and she'd been in that seat since 1992. So
she'd been there for ages.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very strong, massive majority, and it's just about doing really well. They're putting in a good performance and showing people what we're about. That's the important thing. Exactly. There, showing there is another option.
Yeah, we got to show that what our identity is. Everyone knows what the Green Party are, who the Lib Dems, what their policies are, and it's good to see the other day that Richard Tice released I won't call it a manifesto because they're
a policy,
of what
a policy,
identity,
And actually, that went round to all the houses in Cheshire and Amersham, so they had a really good idea of what we stand for, not just in a local area, but also nationwide. Our policies, our key areas. So they got a nice leaflet the other day with a lot of our policies, as you just mentioned. Richard came out with that video and the booklet online, which is really helpful for people to actually see and understand what we stand for. Because as you say, everyone knows what the Tories stand for, everyone knows what the Green Party stands for, and it's about getting our message out about what we stand for, And that's a really important thing to get across in the next few by-elections, the next few elections. It's really important we get across our message so people know who we are and know what we stand for.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Alex has got a bit of a foothold on this because he was involved with the company involved with HS2. So he knows he's got a great understanding of the wastage.
Absolutely.
The project. Yeah. So that puts him in a strong position. How do you feel he's going to do? In all honesty,
I think he'll do well. Because there's a real hunger for something. There's a real hunger against HS2 in the area. And I feel the reception this week's been absolutely brilliant. People are really understanding us. They've got lots of leaflets, lots of information. People are willing to engage, always want a conversation. So I think he'll do well. I think he'll do really well. I think he'll surprise a few people.
So you're moving on a bit. Obviously, I haven't been over there yet. So I'm planning on doing that before the polling day on June the 17th.
Yeah. Thursday, 17th of June.
If anyone's willing to come around, who's watching this, to come around and support Alex, how can he be contacted?
So you can contact him through his Facebook, and the days we're out campaigning basically are Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So we'll be out every Wednesday, every Thursday, and every Saturday and Sunday. We've got a big action day this Saturday. We'll have a big action day every Saturday from here on. Through to the election with Richard, David Ball will be coming along. So Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays and Sundays if you can help. yeah, so the best way to get in touch with him is through his Facebook, or just try and get in touch with the party, ring the party, email the party. There's plenty of ways to get involved.
Yeah, unfortunately, I won't be able to make it myself because I'm going to yet another demo.
Yes, in the local area.
In Peckham, in Joslin Street, Peckham Space. They're doing a demonstration from 5 o'clock at outside Peckham Pulse. So if anyone can come, that'd be really good. Also, it's come to my attention that there's another demo next Friday between 2 in the afternoon and 6 in the afternoon at Lambeth Town Hall for Save Central Hill. It's been going on for a long while. The residents basically want the block want the estate or the block to be refurbished rather than demolished, and they're at loggerheads with the council. So
I see. A big issue, obviously.
If you want to come and support it, it's between 2 and 6 on next Friday, the 4th of June.
Brilliant. That sounds brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. Obviously during the campaign that I campaigned very much against LTNs.
They're devastating, aren't they? They're
what's the reaction
awful.
In Cheshire and Amersham to that? LTNs. Does it affect I know there's some out there that have taken them away. Over to you.
Yeah, so in Cheshire and Amersham, it hasn't really been something we've spoken about. But when I was campaigning in London, for example, in all the different boroughs in London, it was like them. We went to many local ones. I mean, you were at one in Lambeth, Richard, if I'm correct, and you were talking to a guy in a local area who has a car wash, and he'd lost 80% of his business because of the ridiculous LTNs. And there's great examples of pressure that works to remove the LTNs. The really important thing is to speak to people, put pressure on the local elected members in the local areas. I mean, there was one I visited in Greenwich, which we saw, and the public there weren't consulted about it at all. They were furious. We spoke to a local coffee shop there, and they'd lost a lot of customers. And they said, actually, it's to try and save the environment. And actually, it's not doing that, because what it's doing is it's causing the main road to be congested and everybody having to sit there for hours and hours in their car. Yeah. And, it just caused absolute chaos. And they weren't consulted before it was put there. They were consulted afterwards. And actually, none of them liked it in that local area. And the one I visited has actually, I saw on Twitter last week, there's one in Greenwich I visited, which was removed last week, which of course is a great waste of taxpayers' money to put it there in the first place. Of course. But thank goodness it's been removed.
Of course. All this was funded by the Tory government. I think Grant Snapps gave each of the councils a certain amount of money.
Yes, he did at the start of the COVID crisis. Yeah,
and they used that money to not only put council taxes up that were meant to cover COVID, but also to gain money off vulnerable people like the motorists and disabled people.
Absolutely.
People we need to get around to make a living or whatever.
Businesses have had enough issues this year with the lockdowns, the tier measures and things like that. And then just doing something like that, putting in a low traffic neighbourhood into those areas, stopping businesses operating, I mean, that car wash was absolutely crazy, wasn't it? The one you visited, 80% of his business. I mean, he's had to lay off employees. Think about those people. They've lost a job. A lot of them have lost a job. They can't pay for their families. And it's just the government and the local councils and the mayor of London doesn't look at the impact it has. It just makes them look good, doesn't it? And that's the only reason things like that are ever put there.
I was talking to Nick Buckley yesterday in an interview. They'll be available soon. I've got quite a bit of footage to go through on that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, he was saying that in Manchester they've only just started this LTN business.
Oh, that's awful.
About 1 or 2, and now they're thinking about expanding it. There hasn't been no real response apparently. So
wow, that's quite a surprise. Probably because people don't know a lot about it yet. If you know what I mean, it's probably not. Until it affects you, you're not going to speak about it, are you? If that makes sense.
Exactly. I mean, like all the people stuck at home. stuck at home, able to work from home, that hasn't really affected them yet. So
well, no, it's the same. It's the same as lockdown, isn't it? It doesn't affect them, because
obviously
they
they'll
can
be
work
the
from
areas
home.
clean and all that, but try getting to work, or try to make
Yeah.
it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And actually, you say the air's cleaning up. In some cases, some cases it might be, but in some cases, actually, it just causes more congestion on the main road and causes people to sit in their cars for hours.
Where are most people on the main road?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
that
just
really defeats the object. I know.
It does cause people to be late for work. It's been a disaster. And when we see people get back to work and back to the office completely on June 21st, which is the date, I think, there will be more discomfort and anger towards the low traffic neighborhoods where they might not have been to work for the last year. When they return, they're going to go, oh my goodness me, these are a disaster.
Yeah. Also, we discussed the cladding scandal.
It's awful.
That's nationwide. That is terrible.
It's an awful crisis, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was watching.
I mean, you've seen some of the. Tweets of it that people are saying they feel like they're a prisoner in their own home.
It must be awful, so scary, mustn't it? I mean, I can't imagine it. I was watching a documentary on Grenfell Tower earlier today, actually, funny enough, and it was just devastating to see the impact it had and how the fire just ripped through the building. And local authorities need to start taking more responsibility. For example, I was in Greenwich on the campaign trail, and there are these 4-story buildings that Richard and I went to, and the fire safety advice is to stay put in your flat because the building's safe if there's a fire. But actually, it's funny, it says it's safe because it's not safe. They're removing the cladding from the building because the building isn't safe. And yet the fire safety advice is to stay put in your own flat because the building's safe. I mean, it just makes no sense. There's a total lack of common sense. If the building's on fire, why are you going to stay in your second story in a house? What, in the flat? Why would you stay put? Why would you not get out? It's just a total lack of common sense from the authorities. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, in the day, these people have bought their own place in good faith, and now they're faced with a massive bill through no fault of their own.
Absolutely no fault of their own. They don't. Yeah. It's a disaster, and
well, as Reform UK said, we don't think the leaseholders should be held responsible for this.
Not at all.
And the government seem to be dragging their feet on this. They seem to be dragging on forever. People are receiving their service charge bills or their bills for this, and they don't know where they stand, whether to pay it or whatever. It's all up
exactly. And I mean, the government don't do a very good job at dealing with it. The company you've got to consult to deal with it. I've got a 1.2 star rating, and I think over the years they've given something like 40 claims back, and they've had about 15,000 applicants. The complaint system for cladding, and they've only given back 40 claims, and they've got a 1.2 star rating. So it's just a complete lack of competency from the government. Just another example of an absolutely catastrophic. It was definitely preventable, and disasters like this will happen again unless something is done about it. And the local authorities just need to apply more common sense. Don't cut corners, don't be lazy, give out proper and good advice to people. Don't tell them to stay put if the building's on fire, if there's dangerous cladding. Actually, give common sense advice. Say, actually, if your building's on fire, get out, and don't put dangerous cladding on buildings, and don't expect people to have to pay for it. It must be, as you say, like living in a prison, the fact is, if you live on the top story of a building like we saw at Grenfell Tower, and the building catches fire, you are toast. You're gone, aren't you? That's a matter of fact.
I mean, not only are people facing this bill, now there's talk about them having to pay for a new boiler for properties now, which is they're talking about £10,000, but we're talking. We know it's going to be double. We know it's going to be double. I mean, figure and triple it, basically.
I often question who's in government. Is it the Green Party or the Conservatives? I mean, seriously, it's just a ridiculous policy. Okay, it might be all right for the elite 5, in the whole of London. There might be 5 people in 100 that can afford it. But for the average working man and woman who the Conservatives and Labour are supposed to represent, it's not going to work. It's a totally catastrophic, awful policy that's just going to hurt the working man more than anybody else.
Apparently, it'll work worse than what is there already. If you know what I mean.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
Or replace something that is actually working. It does not make no sense.
It's absolutely
when everything
completely
else
ludicrous.
What it's meant to do. I know.
It's completely ludicrous. It's just another one of those green policies that Carrie Simmons has probably come up with. I mean, it's just absolutely. They need to think it through properly, and they're not. They're not. That's the issue. They don't think these policies through. And then they're probably U-turn on this. They often U-turn on policies, and that's probably what's going to happen here.
I mean, the Tories are riding high at the moment with onto this COVID vaccine rollout, which wasn't done by them. It was done by by a private company. So
absolutely,
take the credit for it. Yeah.
But no, it's. I don't know how they're so high up in the polls at the moment. I mean, we've seen ones released recently, and I mean, goodness me, how bad of an opposition leader do you need to be to be this far behind?
Yeah. He hasn't exactly shown much
taken the world by surprise, has he? No, he hasn't at all. Not at all.
Well, Nick Bucknell, he was talking about. He was praising up the only guy that could really get Labour back on their feet is who's contesting against Andy Burnham.
Andy Burnham, absolutely.
He seems to be talking, but what he needs, but he can't take over the party because he's got to run for a seat before he can take over.
Well, I found it very interesting last week. Andy Burnham got a column in the Evening Standard, which is obviously a London newspaper. And as the mayor of Manchester, why on earth do you need a column in the Evening Standard?
He's just become mayor of Manchester. So, Exactly. So,
and the answer is that if he wants to run for leader.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It doesn't make sense. But I think in the future, it could be an option that Labour Party look at. I think, in the future, it could be an opportunity he might want to take. It's a difficult situation for him. But I think, better him than Sadiq Khan. Sadiq Khan wants a job as Labour leader. Better Andy Burnham than Sadiq Khan. Could you imagine?
Have a look at his record as mayor.
I do not know how he got re-elected.
Look at his record as an MP. He was in charge of housing when Greenfield was built.
Oh, there we go. I didn't know that. There we go. That's staggering. It's not a surprise, though, is it?
Yeah. It doesn't mean that. And he's got this great habit of not making anything stick to him. It's like.
It's always. I listened to an interview. He did a head-to-head.
Someone else's fault.
Yeah, constantly. He did a head-to-head with the Conservative candidate Sean Bailey, and throughout the whole interview, the host, I think it was Nick Ferrari, would often say, "Look, how about the knife crime?" And the answer was, "Oh, if the government do this, it's their fault." How about the rise in shootings? Well, the government do this. How about the rising lack of rented houses? Well, if the government do that, the first answer was always, if the government do that. He always seems to blame the government for something that's his own doing, and that's just absolutely atrocious.
I mean,
nothing's his fault.
Yeah. Nothing is his fault. He takes
nothing.
But I mean, now he's talking about, he promised more police in London. There's talk now that he's not even going to get anywhere near that figure that he was quoted as in his election manifesto.
Well, not a surprise.
Yeah, exactly.
Awful. I mean, absolutely catastrophic. Not a surprise, though. Not a surprise he's going to let the voters down, but they'll still, for some reason, he got elected again. I'm not sure. Not sure.
Sean Bailey done a lot better than what we thought he was going to do.
Oh, he did a lot. I thought he'd be getting around 24-25%, but he actually managed mid-30s, didn't he? In the end, I think. He did very well, very impressively.
Yeah. On to other issues. What do you think of the uprise in violence since the Middle East?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. There's obviously, there's been serious conflict in areas in London. I've seen the sort of violence against Jewish people on the streets, and I've seen sort of mobs going around. And Jeremy Corbyn seems to be saying very little about it, which is not a surprise. People like that who just fuel it. They don't say enough about it. And, the Mayor of London just is not doing enough about it. It's an absolute disgrace. It has to be dealt with. We've been there before where we've persecuted religions and hurt them on the streets. And a Jewish person who lives in America the other day wrote a column I found quite striking, saying he now feels afraid to walk on the streets of America. And it's absolutely crucial that we don't get to a stage where we've been in history before where people are persecuted, afraid to walk around the streets. It's absolutely key. They've faced issues in history that all certain religions have. And it's absolutely key that we, fight against violence and hate against religions. You know what I mean?
I mean, like that. I mean, all it does is just. I personally don't care what's happening in Israel. I'm more worried about
Absolutely.
the people that are actually living here. They got nothing to do with this. They probably left them places because they didn't agree with what was going on there in their
Absolutely.
country.
So you can't blame them for something they're not in
Definitely.
control of, can you? It's just absolutely, it's just devastating to see some of the scenes this week where people have been attacked. Cars have been hit and smashed up. There are a few videos of that circulating around, and more has to be done immediately to deal with situations like that.
Do you think mainstream media has got a lot to do with this?
Yeah, I think it does. You see a lot of children running around, taking one side or the other, and you actually ask at these protests, why do you believe in this? And none of them seem to have a clue as to why they believe in it. That's fine, but when it leads to violence, that's not okay. And we need to, the media, seem to hype up scenarios, and it causes a lot of this violence.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, yeah, go on, Karen.
No, I was just going to say it's absolutely awful to see. It was really sad last week to see the scenes I saw in London and other places around the country.
I mean, like, I thought that we had obviously what happened last week with the BLM leader. No one likes to see anything like that happen.
No.
Well, I saw on social media people like Lawrence Fox. It doesn't matter saying it doesn't matter if you agree with a thing that is a horrible thing to happen.
Absolutely.
And everything else, where people like Diane Abbott and people on the left seem to
politicize it.
Try and make it like it was a racial motive or whatever.
But it wasn't. No, absolutely. As you say, Diane Abbott made it out on her Twitter account like it had been done because the woman who was shot was a political activist. And actually, it was nothing to do with the fact of who she was. It was just a random gang shooting. And Diane Abbott made it out on her Twitter like it was a deliberate, targeted approach to shoot this woman in the head, when it absolutely wasn't. And Diane Abbott's just causing racial tension now for the sake of it. And I think it's absolutely disgusting, damaging. And it's just political games at the end of the day. This woman was shot by a gang, nothing to do with who she was as a person, as far as witnesses and other people have said. So it's just Diane Abbott was just playing political games there. It's a dangerous game to play, and it's just she's very awful.
Politician. She will do anything to
get a few likes and retweets on Twitter.
Votes. Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously all this stuff at LTNs and all the rest of it. We've got local elections next year, and councils don't seem to be listening to anyone really about
absolutely.
Thing. And obviously, you heard about all the trouble that we're having in Lambeth and there's in Southwark as well. There's quite a bit of opposition, but at the end of the day, these people, if they're not careful, these people are going to be voted out. Because
absolutely,
and they are playing a dangerous game. The councils.
And they are, for sure. And it's important to go to, like you're going to a local protest this weekend. It's important to do that, important to get involved and engage with people and understand.
I think it's important for us to get noticed, of course, Reform UK.
Absolutely. And you're going to be potentially running as a council candidate next year. Potentially, I don't know exactly what you're thinking there, but if you are, it's important to go out and listen to what people are thinking, listen to what people are saying, and actually go, right, what do you think here? Rather than sitting behind a laptop, at home and not listening to people like Sadiq Khan seems to do. It's important to actually go out and gauge the mood, gauge what people are feeling, understand people's concerns. And that's really important. And that's a really good, it's really good for politicians and people who are thinking about running for office to go and join in with protests, go and listen to the mood and listen to what people are thinking and saying.
Yeah. Would you ever consider running in future?
Absolutely. It's something I'd love to do in the future. You can see what the future holds. I'm only 17 at the moment, so it's a little bit of a, give it a few years, get involved with politics, keep engaged, and hopefully, when the time comes, if the right time comes, there'll be an opportunity for me to run and just make a difference.
We need more young people like yourself.
Politics.
To have a healthy interest.
Absolutely, people, those who haven't got a voice, to actually give them a voice. Yeah, actually give people a voice who haven't got a voice. Listen to people and actually give across their concerns, make a difference to people, and really make a change for good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you were into school earlier than me, sooner than me, I should say, lately. what's the education system like? What are people around you like? Are they right wing, left wing, or?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm at college at the moment in my first year, and it's been interesting because I've been taking a politics course, and actually, it's obviously, people are very nice in there and whatever until you get into a political debate, and then it's a mob of about 25 against 2 in the room. Whenever you get into a situation, whenever you tend to discuss, a particular situation, you get a label put upon you straight away. And actually, there's no substance to it. For example, when I started campaigning with Reform UK, they gave me labels, and I actually challenged them in front of the whole class. I sort of said, "Hang on a minute, can you back that up at all, please?" And actually, none of them could. It's all substance. And when you've got 25 people saying you're this, they will begin to believe it. And it's a problem. People just say things without actually thinking about it, and that's a massive problem throughout the education system with young people right now, and they get away with it.
Yeah. That's the thing with the left. I seem to think that they're very quick to label people. They put
with
people
no substance.
Box, put people in the category just by something that they say.
And I always challenge them whenever they come across with a name, like homophobic, Islamophobic, or something like that, or racist, or other labels that might be thrown towards you, anti-Semitic. I always challenge and say, "Hang on a minute. Why are you saying that? Can you back that up?" And actually, very often, or in fact, all the time, they can't back it up.
Yeah, I know. Do you think that in a way that it seems like there's a lot of indoctrination going on, even at schools or even colleges?
Yeah.
Over here. I know there is in America, but yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I've got a teacher in particular who seems to go along with the left quite a lot and engage in conversation with them about particular issues. I think he or she made a line once about the Conservative Party saying they all hate teachers. Now, whether that's correct or incorrect, it shouldn't be for a teacher to tell pupils their opinion on such and such situation. And it's things like that. She always seems to want to get involved with different issues and give people her opinion about the issues. And actually, I've got a teacher who just quite the opposite. My politics teacher is actually brilliant. I couldn't tell who he votes for or what he votes for. He's completely neutral in teaching the subject matter. And I think that's really, really important. And actually, that helps people learn rather than actually just, hear their opinion. And one of my teachers, actually, I was saddened to hear. She talked about a situation with the police in America. And she talked about her potential dislike for the police. And this girl behind me said, "I don't like the police anymore because of what this teacher had just said." And I thought that is absolutely and utterly, completely distressing. For a young person of 16, 17 to be turning around and saying they don't like the police because of what a member of staff said, that's completely wrong. That's completely wrong. And it's an example of influencing somebody's opinion.
When BLM started, all right, no one can argue Black Lives Matter. Of course.
Absolutely. The 3 words are very important,
And everyone seems to take that at face value. But when you get down, the devil's in the detail, so to speak, of have a look at the rest of what they stand for. They want to defund the police. It's totally
abolish a police, not even defund them. They want to abolish the
police.
And I brought it up last summer. It was obviously quite a topical thing, and I said absolutely, Black Lives Matter. And they do. There has been an inequality in society, and still is in some areas. And there needs to be more to tackle that. But absolutely, this organisation is a far left organisation, and actually, I think a lot of people understand that and appreciate that. A lot of young people, for example, Richard and I, when we were out campaigning in Uxbridge, Boris Johnson's constituency, we met a group of lads, and they actually said, started talking to us about Black Lives Matter, and Richard and I were saying the same thing, and they said, "We completely agree, the organisation ruined it." And they were a group of lads of an ethnic minority, and they were saying, "Look, we're disturbed by the organisation Black Lives Matter because, they hijack our cause." But a lot of people, as soon as you say you don't like the organisation Black Lives Matter, they seem to label you as a racist because somehow by not agreeing with the organisation, you're a racist. And actually, that's completely untrue.
Yeah, that's been hijacked by the Premier League, for example. They, taking the knee kind of thing. And and even some of the black players have turned around and said are refusing to take the knee now, just say that it's lost its
merit. Yeah, absolutely. And when you've got players like that turning around and not doing it, almost, and if people want to take the knee before a game, then so be it. But if people don't want to take the knee, they shouldn't be targeted like certain people have been, or
pressured, or pressured,
screamed at or pressured to do it. Absolutely, you're correct. Yeah, spot on. You shouldn't be pressured into doing something you don't want to, like that.
Yeah. The left seem to be hijacking everything on mainstream media at the moment.
Oh,
it's great to see GB News starting on the 13th of June.
Yes, Sunday the 13th of June, 8 o'clock. Looking forward to it.
That should be good. They've got a lot of diverse characters, I should say.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant for some neutral news, hopefully, rather than the news.
Andrew Neil was a great interviewer and all the rest of it. He's straight down the middle.
He's brilliant. Hopefully they'll hold the government to account slightly more than we see at the moment.
The BBC have acted disgracefully, especially with the Princess Di business. Yeah, and Prince William has shown that he's got in him to be a future king rather than
absolutely. The speech was moving. He did. I don't know if you saw it. The speech he did was brilliant. It was really moving, and it really did show the BBC the issues they've faced, and some of the journalists there you do feel sorry for. I was watching Question Time last night, and some of the journalists who work for the BBC are actually really good journalists. You know what I mean? And it's the leadership at the BBC that have let them down. It's been a complete and utter failure of leadership, and a lot of the people that work for the BBC, it's a complete failure by them. And unfortunately, all the good people that work at the BBC are now going to be tarnished with this, this awful brush, because the leaders at the BBC and the system of the BBC needs to be looked at again. It has to be the TV license has to be scrapped. It has to be looked at differently. I mean, it's complete. We're in the 21st century now. You can get Amazon,
it's outdated.
Net. Yeah, it's outdated completely. You're right.
And it should, well, you could go to prison for not paying your TV license fee. That's
awful. That's absolutely crazy, isn't it? I mean,
it was on Reform TV last night about the BBC.
Yes, I caught a little bit of that.
Yeah, it was very good. They covered it very well. You got people like Calvin Robinson.
Calvin Robinson, yes, I know him.
Yeah.
And Lucy, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was pretty good. Yeah, of course. I recommend people watch it.
Brilliant. I caught a little bit of that. Yeah. No, so it's definitely time to pull the plug, as I said. It really is. It's outdated, as I just said. Now you can go and pay £10 a month for Now TV, for Netflix, for Amazon, for other services like that.
Yeah.
Why should people have to pay for the BBC, even if they don't choose to watch it? Just to watch, for example, Sky One on your TV, you still have to pay for BBC, which is a complete disgrace. It's completely ridiculous.
And the thing is now that the target audience. Young, no one watches it now because they're all watching it.
No, I mean, Lawrence Fox was on Talk Radio the other week, and he said he met a 16-year-old who hadn't actually heard of the BBC. So that tells you how disengaged people are with it.
How out of touch, I know.
Yeah.
There is there's talk about obviously, they're talking opening government now about what to do with the BBC. What do you think is going to happen? Do you reckon they're going to defund it? Or
so I think what they'll do is, rather than make it an option where you've got to pay for it, you haven't got to pay for it, but you can choose to pay for it to get the service. I think what they'll actually look at is they'll look at a system where they actually, they've talked about decriminalising not pay. So it's not illegal not to pay a TV license. I think they've done that, or in the process of doing that. And I think it'll be little things like that, rather than actually going the full hog, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be reform rather than pulling the plug.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, like what do you think of what Carl wants to do now with extending that? He reckons he's got a resounding endorsement to extend the ULEZ unstable. To extend the ULEZ to the outskirts, so to the outskirts.
Yeah.
And obviously, and he's thinking about bringing a tier system, i.e., as you drive in, you pay a certain amount. Obviously, it's going to devastate.
Less well off.
We want to bring people in, not drive people out. You know,
exactly.
Logical.
And actually, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and they were saying actually, the people in central London who have to pay the congestion charge at the moment.
Yeah,
it's awful. I'm not debating that, but most of them can actually afford it. You know, it's not a massive hole in their pocket if they've got to pay for it. Whereas the expansion now is going out to areas where it really, really will burn a hole in somebody's pocket to have to pay the congestion charge every day in these certain areas. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, because some people have no choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's gonna affect the least well off most, and that's an absolute awful decision that's been made. It's gonna, as I just said, it's going to affect those who can't afford it.
Well, I mean, I was talking to Nick Buckley the other day, and he actually turned around and said that this green movement is basically a scam just to appease the middle class or the well-off. You know, that they feel good about themselves. You know, that they're always trying to save the planet, kind of thing.
Yeah, you get that a lot. Then people sort of do things like that. It's called virtue signaling, isn't it?
Yeah,
to sort of make yourself feel good, isn't it?
He's an expert.
Look at me, I'm really environmentally friendly on my 25 flights to Spain a year.
Yeah, I know. Quite hypocritical, really.
Yeah,
private jets and that.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Right. Last subject to bring up. A pet hate of mine. E-scooters.
Right.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, apparently they're meant to be, the private ones are meant to be banned. And yet people go around. There's no way they can catch these people for the simple reason. I was remember. Do you remember when I used? Have you seen the video of the £1 million camera that I done on YouTube?
No, I haven't caught that one.
Right. I done that. That was down Woodworth Road, and someone sped past on one of the scooters, and then about 5 minutes later, you saw about 5 policemen on bicycles. And they're saying, "Oh, did you see where the scooter went?" No, they got no way. They got no way. They had no way to catch it. It's absolutely outrageous. So there's no way they can no way they can enforce that banning banning
no.
that are not on hire, basically.
So we've got to look at the positives and the negatives that e-scooters bring. Now, there are many positives they bring. I think, you know, instead of bringing in all of these low traffic neighborhoods and things like that to save the environment, I think the e-scooters could be a way around that. You know, at the moment, I often, as you say, it's impractical for the police to catch them sometimes, but too often I see the police, you know, these e-scooters going into cycle lanes, and the police actually finding them and putting them over. And actually, I saw a police officer, I was having my lunch in central London, and this band of 8 police officers pulled over this e-scooter and seized the scooter and gave them this great big whopping fine and wasted 45 minutes of their time on this e-scooter. Now, I think things like that, taking 45 minutes of 8 police officers' time to find him, I think that was an absolutely ridiculous, you know, an absolutely ridiculous waste of time. However, when they're being driven on pavements and when they're being driven when they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I heard there's been cases of people driving when they're drunk. Because these things are dangerous. They are equivalent to driving a car.
Yeah.
They should have the same procedures as they should be given training or whatever needs to.
So the way I look at it is, obviously you shouldn't be able to drive them when you're drunk, and I don't think there's not really a rule on that. I don't think, as far as I'm aware, and you shouldn't be allowed to drive them when you're drunk.
There's been a number of injuries from pedestrians and all the rest.
Yeah, and
driving on pavements should be absolutely, completely, nasty wrong. There are plenty of cycle lanes. If people want to use e-scooters and cycle lanes at a sensible speed, I don't think there's an issue with that. And I don't think the police should be spending 45 minutes stopping someone from driving one of these in a cycle lane. But when you see people driving them drunk on a pavement, then you want an issue. So I think it's about a sensible approach.
How can they enforce that? Yeah, exactly. Because I think there's some hire companies now. I was watching a report the other day that you're only allowed to use e-scooters in London if they're hired.
Right. Okay, I don't see the.
Apparently, there's about 2 hire companies. Apparently, if you know the e-scooters that are black in colour.
Yep.
The private ones, you're not. They are banned. You're not allowed to use them at all. Apparently, that's what
right.
Mr. Khan. So he wants people to hire them rather than buy them. Well,
right, money.
Well, yeah, what do you make of that? Obviously, it's money making.
Yeah, it's just a complete money making exercise, and actually, it brings us back quite nicely to the situation about low traffic neighbourhoods, because a lot of the low traffic neighbourhoods are actually just money making exercises, because actually they don't make a lot of difference. People don't need them, and a lot of them are just to catch people and just get a lot of money for Sadiq Khan, and a lot of them are
virtual
just about
projects.
It's just about gaining money, and this is just another money-making exercise. They'll only waste on some stupid art project or some,
Well, you saw that, did you? You saw that underground Piccadilly Circus.
Absolute waste of taxpayers' money. It's disgraceful. It's a complete mess.
Okay. Anyway, that's all for now, I think. So I think we'll leave it.
Brilliant to talk to you.
Yeah, that's okay. No problem.
Good to talk.
Yeah, no worries.
Good to talk to you. Hopefully we can talk again.
Stop it a minute. Hold on.
Cool.
Okay, all good. Stop.
Brilliant.
All right.
All right then.
All right. See ya. All right. Thanks, Matt. I'll try and sort that. I'll try and work out how to get it up on YouTube or whatever, or Twitter.
Cool.
Send it over to you.
All right. Thank you, John.
Right, no problem, Matt. Thank you.
Bye-bye.